Students study inefficiently most of the time. Not that their studying is always ineffective, but it's just that they do not optimize for efficiency and effectiveness or saving energy in the long term. Also, imagine if your grade went up higher than everyone else whilst you have been studying for a lower amount of time or a lesser amount of time. Wouldn't you be addicted to studying? You would, because the only reason people do anything is for some result or some reward. Hi, I'm Aku, and I'm in one of the best universities in the world. And I was the top 10% of students in my school. Studying effectively is what you need. The effectiveness of your studying can literally correlate to how energetic you feel throughout the day. And I want that for you. Why do I say that it makes you more energetic? It is because if you're addicted to studying because your study methods are effective, you save more energy and you will literally be happier about like your academic situation that will make you more energetic. First, I want to talk about the links between exam papers. What does this mean? Basically, every time a examiner or like one of your teachers sets an exam paper, they will never craft it from scratch. They will always have like their own reference exam paper, and they would copy questions. They will have to copy like a few questions from another exam paper. Why does everyone say this, and why does this always work? It is because the concept that they test is always the same. So the question that they will ask is usually like quite related to each other across different exam papers. What does this mean for you? It means that you have to see the these linkages in every exam paper that you do. And when you start to see these links, you will whenever you do another practice paper or the actual exam, it will never feel like you're doing a exam that is so different from what you've been used to. You will understand like how like it's just like you will understand the fact that it's just a rephrase on what you already know. And how do you catch these links between exam papers? Well, it comes from doing multiple exam papers, so you have to put in the work. But it's also about being aware that these links even exist in the first place. And this is the first thing that you should look out for. Next, I want to talk about the proper way to make flashcards. Now, there's hundreds of YouTube videos online on how to make flashcards. But the way I do it is that I will only make a flashcard if that piece of information is really, 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 really important. And why do I say this? It's because that if you make too many flashcards because of information that you think is quite important, and it might be even, but you will be flooded with hundreds of flashcards that you will never do. That's why you should only make flashcards for things that are really, really important. And this was a mistake that I made in my first year of the A levels, because in Singapore the A levels is a 2 year program. This is the mistake that I made in the first year, where I thought that everything that was important and that was being tested should be made into a flashcard, but that's not true. It should only flashcards should only be reserved for the most important concepts in an exam. Next, I want to talk about organization. If your workspace is organized, it will be so much easier for you to step in and work. That's just a fact. There's probably like a lot of studies about it online, and I think you Google it, you can find a study about it. But just trust me on this. Or like if your workplace is extremely organized, it it your eyes will be like relaxed when it sees like an organized workplace, and that would just like is it would just make your study sessions more inviting because not only you spend the effort in like cleaning your table, but it creates a very good environment. If your workplace was extremely chaotic and there's things everywhere, you wouldn't feel like studying. And it's something that's subconscious, so you might feel that in it doesn't matter. But in the long run, trust me, it matters. Every advantage that you can get to start a study session is something that you should consider very seriously. So just take like the last 3 to 5 minutes of your working session. Just be a bit more organized. I'm not asking you to fully spring clean every single time, but and it doesn't even need to be perfect. But at least spend 3 to 5 minutes and 3 to 5 minutes to just at least keep your books clean up a bit. Because especially when we are in the middle of studying, like our table will look really messy, and that's okay because we literally need a lot of notes, a lot of resources to like understand what's going on. But at the end of the study session, spend the 3 to 5 minutes to organize everything back and just put it where it belongs. Next, I want to talk about counting from the back to tackle weaknesses. This can be related to my first point, which was the links between exam papers. But now I want to introduce to you about the concept of counting from the back, which is one of the modules in my course. What does counting from the back mean? Well, every time you get an exam paper, like your results back, or you mark it yourself, assuming you don't get full marks, there will be mistakes that you made. These are the mistakes that you made is what you should be focusing on and should be the basis of what result you give yourself. Basically, I explained this in the my course in depth, but it's basically like, let's say you get 80 out of 100. But if you get 80 out of 100, I don't know if you'll be watching this video, but let's say you get 80 out of 100. And your real score basically is 20. Because we only want to focus on the weaknesses. It doesn't make sense to keep focusing on what went right. If not, we'll never improve. So our real score is 20 because the exam paper managed to take away 20 marks from us. So that should be where we put our emphasis on. So we really just got 20. And similarly, if you got 70 out of 100, it should be 30. And the lower this real score, the better you did. And when you put your emphasis on the mistakes, not in a negative way where we are so like bummed out or anything, but it's more of like, this is where the progress is. By focusing on your mistakes, that's where you can find the progress that you want in the first place. You should spend very, very little, I wouldn't say zero, but very little like time on what went right. Okay, maybe that's, it should be comparatively less as compared to the amount of time you spend on your mistakes. It's still good to understand what went right so that you can correct what went wrong. But you get what I'm trying to say. Like, counting from the back when you're in your grind period is good so that you can understand where your weaknesses lie. Because most likely you know what went right. That's why you did the question correctly. One of my last few points, uh, track. TRACK. Track, track, track. Track your exam papers. How do you do that? Well, I explained this in depth again in my module, in one of my courses. But basically take a Excel sheet, and you don't even need to do this on an Excel sheet. You can do this on a pen and paper, or you can do it anywhere. But basically, every time we do an exam paper, every time we do a practice paper, write like the sort of reflection that you gained from that practice paper. In the sense, maybe it was something, an exam paper that you got like 65 out of 100. That means a real score of 35, which is quite high. Like the real score is quite high. That means you didn't do that well, unless you're happy with the 65. I mean, it's about progress, right? So it doesn't matter. Write like what you've learned from doing that practice paper and like all the corrections that you did. There has to be there has to be like a sort of like message from the exam paper in your mind, like, okay, this exam paper was pretty good, it's just that I missed out this, and that is something that you write, like maybe like what I said in the Excel sheet or like on a piece of paper, and you do that for each exam, and you will see like what is your overall trend for like that subject, and that's damn powerful. So just to recap, track your exam papers by having like this sort of like concluding statement every time you cleared and every time you've cleared an practice paper, cleared an exam paper or cleared a practice paper. Again, I want to talk about the part where I said the links between exam papers and maybe the links between concepts in a subject. So we all have energy in our brain that makes us learn. So you can think of one unit of this energy being called a brain point, and you can probably understand that the random activities that you do throughout the day will reduce the amount of energy in your brain, which will make studying feel harder. So use these brain points to learn links. How do you do that? You obviously study and you find out what went wrong during exam papers, like example your mistakes, which is basically the links that you need. These links between concepts in a subject or the links between exam papers is what increases your skill level in that subject. That's it. That is something that most students don't realize. That is something that holds students back because they just study without intention. This is your intention. Use the energy in your brain to learn links between concepts in the subject, and that is how you increase your skill level. That's it. It's quite easy said. It's quite easier said than done. But if you have the intention of doing this and then you study, it will make your study session more effective because you understand what it takes to increase your skill level. Cheers.